Wine and Dine weekend has come and gone, and we have kicked off the Run Disney season. So Patty and I are here to talk about it.
To all who come to our happy place, welcome to the No Guilt Disney podcast, where we have no guilt about our love of all things Disney, and especially Run Disney.
We are three Disney fangirls who are two again this week and probably know more about the Disney parks and Run Disney than most grown women should.
What was that?
You can leave this in. I just went to close out. I had a chat window open on my browser, and I was like, "Oh, let me close that so it doesn't like make noise and distract me." And then I accidentally hit like the X to leave the tab that we're recording in, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So the good news is I did not yell any profanities, which is also very surprising. But it was like, "Do you want to leave?" And I was like, "No, we're good."
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, side note, I heard from quite a few people this weekend that their children listened to our podcast. So, hey, hi, kids. And I'm so sorry for Jane. I'm so sorry.
I do not say any of the bad words
on
the recording.
You try not to. But sometimes they slip out. I know because I edit them. So
I don't even know that they're there. I mean, unless we're calling like, there's like certain words that I don't consider them to be profanities that other people do. And my guess is that you do. And you're like, "Oh my God, we can't say that word." And I'm like, "Are you kidding?"
It's not even so much that I find them offensive. It's just that I do this for a living where I listen to movies and TV shows and write down what I have learned that other people get offended by, which, by the way, OMG is one of them in some circles. Not telling you to edit yourself. I'm just telling you.
I'm not.
Aware. No, it's not my issue. I just pick up on it because I do it as another part of the No Guilt universe. You can also get parent feedback fan guides for movies, concerts, TV shows, that sort of thing. If that's your thing and you are interested in knowing what your kids are going to watch before they go watch it, I do that too. So hi, Patty Holiday, in case you are new here and you haven't met us yet. No Guilt Universe is my thing that comprises the No Guilt Disney blog and podcast, No Guilt Fangirl, and No Guilt Life, all blogs you can Google and find us pretty much anywhere and everywhere. And we also have a lovely Facebook group that you can join, and we have a lot of fun in there too. Theresa is not here. Theresa is our third co-host. She is actually doing some family stuff this weekend, but she also did not come to Wine and Dine. So Jane and I are like, cool, we'll cover it. We'll talk about it so you don't have to sit there and listen to us talk about all this boring runner stuff. However, Theresa has one aspect that changed in the Wine and Dine situation. And we talked about this on the last podcast that she and I did together, last episode that we did together, about the athletes with disabilities and some changes that came up. And those changes went into effect for this race. And it sounds like it was pretty awful and not a good situation whatsoever. I have some notes on it, but I am going to defer to like a deep dive conversation for the next time that I'm together with Theresa, which is actually going to be this weekend. So we might pop on and just give you a little update on that or add it to our other content that we end up putting together for the Jollywood Nights Christmas at Disney World experience that we're going to cover for you. So if you are an athlete with disabilities runner, or you're interested and you want to know the tea or the information, or just we didn't want to leave anybody hanging because we talked about it so much on the last time that we felt like we needed to follow up with it. We do have a little bit more information. It's kind of getting solidified as we speak, as people are giving their feedback and giving their information. But overall, it was not good. It was very disappointing. And let's hope there's some chance for course correction on Run Disney's part. Because it sounds like it was tough for those athletes. Okay, Jane, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I was like, also, hi, my name is Jane. Yeah. And I'm also on this podcast.
I had to get there. Calm down.
I mean, 7 years later, I apparently am incredibly offensive. But on the other side, I won't apologize for who I am because This is what brings joy into the world.
You're not
Mixtures of
offensive. Oh
people.
my gosh, calm down.
No, I will not listen to track 14 on Lover. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to have a little spicy conversation, I think, here talking about a wine and dine weekend. First of all, let's just touch base with the expo since that always kicks everything off. What was your experience like? I know yours was drastically different than mine because we went at two completely opposite time frames.
Yeah. And so the expo for me was super easy. I would say I am a very different expo attendee because I am local. I don't give a hoot about like getting there super early for merchandise. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want nothing to do with the crowds. So for me, I always go at the end of the day. I go after work, and I will say that it was a little bit crowded trying to park. So like the parking situation, I thought was really long, and that was the first time I'd ever seen that. I was parked in like a whole section of Wide World of Sports that I've never parked before in the, I don't know, 12 years, 13 years I've been doing Run Disney. 14 years I've been doing Run Disney. So parking was pretty okay, but other than that, like bib pickup was super smooth. I went over, managed to get my shirt, did a little shopping at the expo, and then took a swing around merch, and I was out in probably an hour. Like it wasn't, it was really like easy and smooth, but that's usually the experience at the end of the day. So I would say if anybody doesn't, if merch, there was merch left. So it's not that everything was sold out. It wasn't a disaster, which we've had some of those situations in the past. It wasn't any of that. So if you're into it, but you're like, I don't want to fight the crowds or whatever, I highly recommend going in the afternoon. I did not need a virtual queue to get into the merchandise area either. So that's the other piece because I know they do that virtual queue in the morning.
On the first day. Yeah.
Yep.
What did you buy at the expo?
I didn't buy any Run Disney merchandise. I didn't even buy a magnet, which is the thing that I buy at every race. So I didn't even get that because I'm running out of space to put them because they also give you the annual pass magnets. I've also skipped like 3 of those because I refused to go to Epcot to pick them up because who needs to go to Epcot unless you're going to guarantee me a ride on September, and we all know how that goes. So I didn't get that. I wound up buying, what did I buy? I bought some heating pad, cooling pad, freezing situation. I don't know what it's called. It was very expensive in my mind, but you could like negotiate them down. So we did. So I got that, which I haven't used. And then
What is that supposed to be for? Like if you have an injury, like heat or cold or
yeah, so it's like a gel pack. I'm like staring at it. I'm like, it's right
okay.
over there. It's a gel pack, and you can freeze it, or you can just leave it out. And then there's like a button that you push, and then it becomes either like warm for 2.5 hours it'll hold, or like a heating pad. Or if it's in the fridge, not the freezer, but if it's in the fridge and you do it, it'll stay cold like an ice pack for
Hmm.
I think 2.5 hours. So yeah, so they had like different ones. They had one that was like back and shoulders. So I got the back and shoulders, and I was like, I actually liked it more so because I could use it when I have cramps. And so I was like, that's like a wireless way. I was like, I can use it kind of like a, hot water bottle type situation. My friend Megan, who comes and runs this race, she got ones. They have ones specific for your feet that wrap around your feet.
I was about to say, is
So
there something for your feet? Because I would use that at night for my feet. I would get cold feet like all the time. So
I I thought of that. I was like, I
warm
actually
me up.
thought for me, I was like, should I get the feet one and keep them in the fridge? Because then I could stop the one leg out of the blanket,
Yes, that you have
right?
to balance
That
things
we have to
out.
do to
Yep, yep,
balance,
yep,
right?
yep,
So I
yep,
was like, oh,
yep.
then I'd be able to keep the blanket in, but then I'd still keep the feet cold. So, but for you, yeah, it would definitely work for heating the feet as well. So I bought that, and then I bought a Wonderland themed visor from Sparkle Athletic
That was
because I
super
love their
cute.
visors. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
super cute. And like, did I need it? No. Did I absolutely buy it? Yes. So yeah.
Cool. I had kind of the opposite situation. I was a Club Run Disney Gold member for the first time. So that gave me like a 45-minute early entry to the merchandise area, not to anything else. So, like, I couldn't go pick up my bib early or anything like that, but I could get into merchandise early. I think that would be my preference, is that I could also pick up my bib early, because I do merch in the sense of I go and I check it out and I'm like, wow, this is all really cute. And then I leave. I'm not a merch buyer. So, but if I had been able to like pop over before the crowds and get my bib as well and my shirt as well, I would have been like, okay, check mark. Like, this is a definitely big positive for me for Clubber and Disney. However, they didn't. It was just the merchandise situation. And so the way it worked was, when I drove in, I actually parked in the primary parking area, but I was one of the last rows. So I could already sense that even though I was there, 45 minutes before the expo actually opened for the general public, things were going to fill up quickly. And when I left, I was also there only for about an hour. And when I left, there were cars backed up to get into Wide World of
Yeah.
Sports. And so I was curious how it was going to be for you, if you were going to have any problems. It sounds like people were lingering or showing up later in the day. Something was going on. I wonder if that has to do with the virtual queue callback times, though, like if that is bringing people spaced out farther, because in the past, at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, if you rolled into Expo, you could park in the primary parking spots, like primary parking spot. Like, you didn't have to be parked out in the weird place that you had to get parked in. So that's interesting as a difference, but I don't know. So I went in, I looked around. I did not have to wait in any line whatsoever to walk in. It was just, they checked my name off a list and let me walk through. I was able to take pictures at the beginning. There was that cute little Alice in Wonderland set up. So I got a picture there, just walked up and somebody else was standing there. So she took my picture. I took her picture, that kind of thing. And then we walked in and did our shopping. I did stand in line for character pictures because they were fairly short lines. And I was there right when the characters started meeting and greeting, because they don't start for the entire time that Club Run Disney is there. They only started probably for after 30 or 40 minutes, something like that. So if you are a platinum member and you show up earlier, because you get in even sooner than the gold members. So if you're a platinum member, you might have had to stick around for at least an hour before you could see characters, if you wanted to see characters. But I only had to stick around for 30 minutes, and then the characters started coming out. So I went ahead and popped into lines and took a couple of character pictures. So for me, that was the big score, was that I got those character pictures and character lines before they got very long. And then the cool thing I also thought was that the same characters that were at the expo ended up being what they offered us also after the 5K. So I didn't feel like I had to stand in line for them after the 5K, which we'll talk about that in a bit. Because I felt like I'd seen, anybody that I wanted to at Expo. So anyway, so my Expo experience was fine. I did note, though, there were some items that I could tell were going to sell out. The runDisney branded backpack, it was brand new this year. And they changed all the colors, they changed all the logos, they changed all the.
Was that the blue? It was it almost looked like cloud, whatever. They
Yes,
still
yes.
had it when I was there.
Okay, well, then they restocked, because
Yeah.
midday people were saying they were all sold out and people were panicking and upset that they got there late and whatever. So
No,
to Jane's
plenty when I
point,
was
then
there.
they're restocking. So yeah, it just, unfortunately, if you get there midday on the first day, they may not have restocked for you yet, and so therefore you might have to come back if there's something that you really want. So yeah, expo timing is always hard, because people ask, is it better to go first thing in the morning? Is it better to go later on in the day? And the answer is kind of, it depends on how you want to do crowds and how you want to linger. I definitely think day one, 10, 11, or 12 o'clock is going to be the most crowded time period. You are going to have lines to stand in to get your bib. You're going to have lines to stand in to get your merchandise purchased. You may or may not have fully stocked merchandise, because there were a lot of people that had big baskets sitting on the ground, going through their stuff, because kind of what happens is everybody rushes in, they grab what they think they might want in different sizes, and then they go and park themselves on the ground somewhere and start trying things on to see what actually fits and what doesn't. And who knows, some of those things end up back on the correct racks in the correct way, and sometimes they don't. I did not see any trash cans full of clothing though this time, so I do think that either runDisney did a better job or the runners themselves did a better job that
There
early
were
in the morning.
signs, though. There were
There
signs
were.
that said, please return your items to the
Good.
racks they came from. And so I thought that was new. And I was like, oh, look at them telling us to do better.
Just
So appreciate that.
reminding us gently to be better humans.
To be better humans. Yeah.
Return your shopping cart to the corral
Yeah.
thingy. Okay, so that was the expo. Again, nothing like crazy or anything from my experience, but I'm not a shopper. I am a get in, get out kind of person. But after I did the pictures, then the bibs were open. So I was able to go up, get my bib, go from the bib, go get my shirt, exchange my shirt size, and then leave all probably, an hour, maybe hour and 10 minutes max. So very easy day for me too, as far as
Yeah, I
that's
mean, I
concerned.
could have stayed and done character photos, but we were trying to get to dinner, and honestly, I didn't even make myself presentable. And so I have this thing where I'm not going to wait to take pictures that I know I'm going to hate.
Fair, fair.
I know I'm just going to rip myself apart in whatever that photo is, so we're just not going to take it.
Just not going to bother with it. Yep, I hear you. All right. Okay, so the next morning was the 5K.
It
And
was.
we get up and we park our little cars and walked in. Both Jane and I are drivers. She comes off property. I come from on property. And I mainly do it because our schedule is always to go out to eat after the race. And we like to go off property at a place that has really good breakfast. So I always drive instead of taking the bus. And I have to say that I was staying at the boardwalk. And when I walked down at, it was probably 3:45, there was a huge line of people waiting for the bus. And this is something that in our Facebook group, a lot of people are talking about. And I've seen in other Facebook groups, a lot of people were talking about it. Buses were kind of hit and miss again. It looked like a lot of people were waiting 45 minutes at times for buses. And then other people were reporting, yeah, they were getting hung up in traffic. And so they couldn't circle back around. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that just seems crazy to me because usually this can be or not usually, but this can be a fairly seamless process because they have the buses go different directions than like we might go maybe. And so I wouldn't have thought that they'd get caught up that much in traffic as much as it felt like this weekend they did. And I didn't think that there was that much construction on property this year.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I hear this every weekend for 14 years.
Yeah, could be.
And that's the thing is like, there does always wind up being like some sort of backup with traffic
Mm-hmm.
because where they like dropping off the buses can always like back up a little because you're in one line, so you have to wait for every single bus to move out before you can get back out.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you pull in, there's only a certain amount of places for them to pull in and drop off, so you have to wait to be in one of those spots, and then also just getting back out and getting back over to the hotel. So I don't think they run technically enough buses. I'm sure that they do some math that tells them that they do, but I also think it's probably like just like there's a wave of people that come all at the same time. So
That's what I think. I think this is like the strongest
yeah,
thing. If you're a bus rider, if you are counting on the bus to get you back and forth to these races, my number one, and I've always said this, I've repeated it every single race for every single time, is try to be on the first bus.
yep,
Whatever
yep,
time that first bus is listed that they're going to roll them out, that's the time you need to go ahead and just suck it up. That extra 15 minutes of sleep is going to pay off because you're not going to be anxious and worried while you're standing there
yeah.
waiting for what can feel like forever for the buses to show up and to get you where you need to go. So that's kind of my thought process. When you see a lot of people complaining about the buses work, the buses will get you there. There was one race weekend, I think it was Princess last year, where there was some huge something happened. I don't know if it was accidents. I don't know what it was, but like they delayed the half marathon, I want to say by like 35 minutes. They didn't even start it. They started it late because so many buses were impacted. So in other
Oh, and
words,
they couldn't get them off the road.
they
That's what
couldn't
it
get
was,
them
because
off
they
the
couldn't
road.
they couldn't close the
Yes,
course. I remember that.
exactly. Do you remember?
Yeah.
So just be aware that Disney does know what's going on. They do get feedback and they do hear these things in real time when it's happening. So if they have to delay, they have to delay. But also, it can also impact if you're going to be in the crowd that you want to be in versus if you get stuck having to be in one of a further back crowd just because that crowd closed while you were waiting on your bus. It has
So
happened.
I thought what they did well this race was that they gave us closing times for the
Mm-hmm.
corrals, which
They
they've
did.
never done before.
This was new.
And yeah, I thought that was so great, because then like I was able to back up from, okay, what's the closing time for the corral? That means I need to be there by this
Mm-hmm.
time. And then how long will it take me to walk from the car, drop stuff off, whatever we were doing. So that was kind of how I planned my morning. But again, I'm a driver. So I know how long it takes me to get from point A to point B. And when I get to the car is there and I can get on it and I know where to go and I'm not going to get lost. So like I have all these other, things, all these what ifs that can potentially happen on property I don't have to deal with.
Right.
But I thought that was a really good ad. Like it's just, one of these, I feel like they're tweaking minor things on every race, and like, oh, some of them are like stupid little things that you didn't think would matter that matter.
Yeah. And that's one of them. Like, it's
Yeah.
just good to know. And they put the information out. And I'm pretty sure they even tweeted it like once or twice out just to give everybody a heads up. Like, hi, we're serious about this. Like, this is going to close at that time. And we had friends of ours that were supposed to be in A Crow, I think they said for the 5K, and they ended up in C Crow because of their bus situation. It does happen because they are telling us when they're going to close these things and move these things and whatnot. And sometimes that's what happens. So if you know that going in, also you can like set your mindset to be prepared for the what ifs, that could happen. But hopefully, if you want to avoid those things, then really just try to be on the first bus. That's honestly like the best thing you can do for yourself. If you're a nervous person, if you're concerned about it, if you are like, I don't even care as long as I just get into the crowd and get to run the race, then don't worry about it. Sleep in as late as you can, roll out of bed and get on that last bus. You'll be fine. But for anybody who is on the more anxious side of things and they really want to be in their corral and be there early and whatever, take the earliest bus that you can because that's going to be your best bet for the least
Yeah.
amount of stress.
And I'll say that like when I used to stay on property, I used to take like the first ish bus. So not necessarily the first one. But I also find that like at the beginning, you get like the buses will come almost a little bit more quickly because there's less of them on the road already and they haven't fully picked up the people so they can move a little
Right.
quicker.
Right.
So even if you miss the first bus, like the second and the third bus will come pretty quickly. But the problem is they don't tell you what time those are coming. So you have to like prepare to be like, okay, first bus is whatever, 3:00.
Right.
Then I'm gonna aim for the 3:00 bus. And then if you're me, you're late for everything. So you will be down there at 3:10 and then you will get on whatever bus comes at 3:10. But
Yes, exactly. No, to your point, and I think that's just, oh, I say first bus, but Jane's correct. Like
yeah,
3:45 is going to be a different experience than a
correct.
3:15 go down to the bus stop situation. There is a big difference in what happens between those times with the roads, with how many people are waiting. It's the same thing as once we get on the course. The A crowd people have a very different experience than
Yeah.
the E crowd people do because of how many people are on the course and what is happening at that time. So all of those are good points, things to bring out. So we get there, we get into our corral, we start our race, all's good. We come up to the first character stop, and the first character stop was actually outside of, it was right past like the security of Epcot, but not
It's
into
not in
Epcot yet, right?
yeah, it's
Like
behind Test Track.
backstage. There you go. There
Yeah.
you go.
And
And
if you've ever run any of these races before, it's always at the same spot. That's
yes,
always there's always a character stop there.
usually at that 5K.
Mhm.
And
So
this time
that
it was
was
the White Rabbit,
White Rabbit, yep. And the line was 7 years long.
7 years long. Easily 7 years. We
Mhm.
waited quite a while for that line. But Jane had on a cute little Alice in Wonderland shirt, Taylor
Mhm.
Swift, Alice in Wonderland shirt. So of course we had to stop with the White Rabbit and get that picture. And it was cute. It was worth it. Whatever. So then we mosey on and we continue on. At that point, once we got into Epcot, I was like, the usual. I got to stop and go to the bathroom. If anybody knows me, you know, I just, I can't. And plus, that character stop like wasn't helping any. So anyway, had to stop and go use the restroom. And Jane was like, "I'll carry on. I'll go get in line at the next character." And I was like, "Sounds good. I'll jump into line with you." Yeah, I didn't see her for like 25 minutes because there were no characters.
So I texted her at America. So usually I want to say there's usually a character stop in like China.
There is, yeah, China
And then
or Germany.
sometimes, yeah, I was going to say, and then sometimes it might be either Germany or Italy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's always
Mm-hmm.
some like in that area. No. First character stop was in America. And it was Duffy. And no offense to the Duffy haters, but I hate Duffy. I think Duffy is stupid. So this is like the third or fourth 5K that I've seen Duffy on in the last year. And I'm over it. I do not want to see another Duffy character stop. It's like, would you like to take a picture with, this weird stuffed animal that you got at a carnival? No, I would not. I would not like to take a picture with that. Austin
Austin.
agrees.
Austin completely agrees with you. Says no to Duffy.
So I texted Patty and said, Patty, I was like, I'm skipping Duffy. And she was like, obviously. And I was like, I'll go to the next one. And then I just kept going and
And
going
going and
and
going.
going. And I was like, so finally I crossed the bridge from France into the back of the UK where there's this, the adorable little rose garden that is also very Alice themed.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm going to wait for you here because apparently there's no characters on this course. So I'm going to have to make my own photos and I would like a photo in this rose garden. She was like, okay. So I wait for Patty to come and then she takes this adorable photo for me. And then we walk around the corner and there's finally a character. And when I tell you around, like it was literally 10 feet from where I was, but I wasn't enough over the hump into the UK to see it.
It was hilarious. I was like, are you kidding me, Jane? It was right there.
It was right
Anyway,
there. It was right there.
not only was there another character, it was the Red Queen and the cards,
It
which again,
was.
Alice, great. We're all excited about that. This was the theme of
Love
the
it.
race. We love it. So then we go to find the back of the line and we keep going and going and going. And y'all, I can't even tell you. I don't even know how many runDisney events I have done or how many lines of characters I have stood in before. But this has to be a top 3, if not number 1, longest wait ever for a character
Correct.
that I have ever
Correct.
experienced. It
The
was
entire race, every person on
stopped.
that race course was stopped for this character because everybody was like, where are the characters? By the way,
Correct.
when I passed Duffy had a line of like 6 people. You know why? Because no one cares about Duffy. No one. No one. Stop giving me like the candy corn of characters.
I like candy corn. I don't care about
You're
Duffy.
wrong.
I like candy corn. Yeah, no, agreed. It just the character choices were weird, especially, and we'll get to it when we look at the characters that they gave the
Can't wait for that
10K
rant.
and the half marathon. Like, what? But the 5K really kind of got shafted, I think, in character
Mhm.
choices. They were so we had these two that were the two Alice themed to the race, but then and then we had Duffy, and then we had
So
two
2
Lilo
Stitch
and
stops.
yeah, two Lilo and Stitch type stops. Like,
What?
yeah.
Like what? Like what?
And I
Like
know there's a lot of Stitch lovers out there, but y'all are getting you are getting a race in April.
that was my thing. My thing was like, if I wanted a Stitch race, I would have signed up for the Stitch race. And just to make things clear, I purposely didn't sign up for the Stitch race because I didn't want to run a Stitch race.
But you did this one.
And
Yeah.
here I am. I love Alice in Wonderland. And I was like, Alice in Wonderland has such good characters. You could have done so many different ones. There could have just been backdrops and
Something more
something.
to spread people out and to get people to stop. This is our point. Is we've run a lot of these 5Ks before. And the 5Ks that are always like the biggest crap shows that people complain the most about, the long lines. There's always going to be long lines at the 5K. It's just the way it is.
Yep. Yep.
Mostly because people who are running for time, it's an untimed race. And so they use the other two races to run for time. And the 5K is their fun stops and is to take all the pictures and all of that stuff. So that's to be expected. Like, we're not saying that we were shocked that there were lines. I'm
No, there's
saying
always lines.
always
I mean, we
lines.
waited 55 minutes for the Red Queen.
We
55,
did.
5
It was
5.
it was a very long stop.
It was a very long stop.
I mean, yeah, we waited in lines more than I think we ran in the
Oh no,
end.
I mean, we definitely did.
It
But
was
like they were walking around when I got in line for that stop. It was, I want to say it was like 5:45,
that sounds right.
and oh, it was 5:54. That's what it was, cuz I took a photo of the end of line marker as we
Mhm.
walked up, and I did it so that I had a timestamp of when we got in line.
Okay.
And they kept walking around the line telling us that the Red Queen and that all characters would be pulled from the 5K at 7:15. So, FYI, I bet you that moves forward in the future. Good to know, whatever. I was like, why are they telling us this? This is not going to be like, it's before 6 o'clock. Why are they telling me about 7:15? Well, I have to tell you, there I was 50 minutes later. Like, am I going to make this 7:15 cutoff?
We really were beginning to question it and wonder it. So yeah, it was crazy. And I think my feedback or my observation to this is that in the 5K, we have had 5Ks where we had like 7, 8, and 9 characters on the 5Ks. It's been like mind
Yeah.
blowing and amazing and like, oh my gosh, so many characters. They also had a lot shorter lines because people had choices and
Yeah.
they weren't all like you could absolutely tell the new runners were probably just confused, going like, where are all the characters? I thought there would be characters on this course. But the experienced veteran runners, we knew, like, okay, well, we're going to wait in this line no matter how long it takes because this is
Correct.
our only option on the course. Like, we know where they usually place characters. And we were just like, I don't think there's going to be any other characters coming up. So I guess this is it. This is where we'll spend our time. So us and 87,000 other of our runDisney 5K friends did the same thing, and we all stood in that line. So I hope what runDisney takes away from this, if they are listening, um, or if somebody wants to forward this feedback who might have connections to them, is as a runner being out on all these courses, I've done so many of the 5Ks. I can tell you the smoothest and the most fun and the ones that you come off the course feeling like you had the most positive experience with are the ones that have more characters because again you have more choices. I may not stand in every single character line, but I have choices to make, and I
Right.
don't feel like if I want a character picture it has to only be one or two, like, and that's kind of how it felt here. After we left the Queen, we did see Lilo and Stitch, but we were kind of over it at that point. We don't care about Lilo and Stitch. Neither one of us do. So we carried on. So then and this was a new kind of route for the 5K. So it also took us in a little bit different direction, which I think if you're a runner, like straight runner, you're not stopping for any picture. So you're speed demoning along. There were some like really tight kind of corners and hairpin turns that they were asking you to make
Mm-hmm.
that I think on this day was probably fine. But if it had been a day that it was wet, rainy, which Wine and Dine often does to us, it might have been a different story. It could have been like you would have needed to slow down around some of these curves and these corners because there was at least two. One of them was right after,
At least it's not timed.
but at least it's not time. So like
Yeah.
You'll be okay if you slow down, right? So anyway, there was that, and then we actually ended up running right past Guardians of the Galaxy for the first time. This was the first race that they've had where the course was actually routed around it, and I was confused. I There was photo pass photographers who were taking pictures in front of the star jumper that's out in front of the Guardians, and I was like, why are they doing that? Like, that's dumb. And Jane pointed out, she was like, well, it's the first time we've ever gone past this. So maybe people want to take a picture there.
It is. And maybe some people haven't done that photo before, or, maybe you're not planning on going to the park this trip, or whatever your reason is. I don't think it's such a bad idea to have some photographers out with even non-character options. I think that, like, they had somebody out for the Mickey 100th statue.
Right.
But these are things that, like, when Patty and I run races, we're very much like, can I get that photo on any other given day? So, like, if I'm not wearing a costume that begs to have that photo, then I'm not waiting for a photo that I can get on a random Wednesday. I'm just not doing it, because that's already included in my annual pass. So, like, I'm not running Run Disney to do that. So I want things that are special.
Yeah.
But, like, my thing was, like, it didn't even have to be characters. Like, you could have moved the teacup set that was at the expo,
Mm-hmm.
that everybody just kind of, you sat in it, you would take a picture. It was a setup, this teacup setup. You could have had something like that. You could have had, a backdrop. There's backdrops that that they've done in Magic Kingdom for, like, Halloween or whatever, that kind of look like
Mm-hmm.
photo frames and whatever. You could have done one of those that maybe had, was Alice themed 19, with, like, her original cover with, like, her 1951 open, whatever. There were, like, a million things you could have done, because I know that those kinds of things, right? They have to pay characters to be there. So, like, that's another big expense. And of course, setting up whatever and building props and all that, also still an expense, but probably something you can reuse at another time. And you've already taken the sunk cost, right? So, welcome to Disney Economics with Jane. So, but, like, that's where I was like, you could have done things to theme this a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the other thing was, I ran the Alice in Wonderland 5K at Disneyland 10
No,
years ago.
it was the 10K. It was the very first 10K they did.
Wasn't it the 5 and the 10? Because they were back to back. Because people ran the 5K. I didn't, because I didn't knew I couldn't. But there was the 5K, and then they would finish the 5K and
You're
get in line for the
right. That
10K.
very first 10K was back to back. And so I don't remember, maybe it was an out. I just remember the teacup
Maybe.
for the 10K, because I also did not do the 5K for that race. But I
Oh no,
had
it had to be the 10K, because I didn't do the 5K.
Okay,
Yeah, you're
yeah.
right.
Yeah, yeah. So because I got the teacup medal, and it was adorable. It was so cute.
So cute.
So cute.
But that's why, like, I've run a
Mhm.
race that has been Alice themed before, and it felt magical and Alice themed. And I mean, maybe it's just Disneyland, because Disneyland.
Maybe. Yeah, but like, yeah, no, to your point, listen, Pete Davidson did not need to take a picture in front of the Star Jumper or the Disney 100. Okay. Like, Pete don't care about that. But if you had given him a Cheshire cat, like, how iconic would Pete Davidson as a Swiftie been with the Cheshire cat? So I would have absolutely stood in another hour-long line for the Cheshire cat if they had put him out.
If I had had, like, the caterpillar,
Oh yeah.
Absalom,
Oh yeah. 1,000%. I
would have
mean,
waited for that.
there's thing Heffalump and Woozles, like you could have had. I don't know. I agree with you. I feel like the
I
5K.
mean, that's Winnie the Pooh, though.
Oh, sorry. No, I don't need Heffalump.
I understand, though, because they're trippy, and I know where you're going. The connection is there. The connection is there.
I was connecting with drug trips. I was like,
I
drug
know.
trips, Disney
Oh my
runs,
God. Oh
same
my God.
thing for some people.
So, but yeah, like, no, there was just many other options that they could
Yeah,
have done. They could have, like, in my head, I was like, why did nobody wheel out a, like, a teacup, like the actual, like, we have the teacup seats in Disneyland Lobby Hotel. There's, like, an
yeah.
actual physical teacup in Disneyland. I mean, I know I keep saying Disneyland, and we're not at Disneyland very much. Clearly, I understand that. But, like, these are things that you could have done that would have been themed, and you're not doing it. And that just, to me, felt like, and then so
So what we're
it's like,
saying is, if you're going to give us an awesome theme, commit
Use it.
to it, commit to the bit and do it. And you had time. Like runDisney, you chose these themes. How long did we register in advance? Like
Right.
y'all knew what the themes were going to be. You knew what the plan was. And I just feel like for this 10K, I'm sorry, this 5K, and I don't complain about the 5Ks very much because I usually they're awesome and they're amazing and they're great. And this
Yeah.
one was just weird and not good. And that was kind of also the feedback that I got from a couple of other people who ran the 5K as well, who just said, "Nah."
My other issue was that there were the two other character stops, right? So it was White Rabbit, Duffy, and the Queen.
Right.
And then the two other character stops was Stitch, wasn't it Stitch and Angel, and then two
Yes.
other Stitchy characters that I don't know.
We don't even know
But
them because
like,
we don't know the movie.
so again, so out of 5 character stops on course, 3 of them were not themed to the race,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 of them were themed to one whole theme. So if you don't like that theme, then you were SOL.
You're going to skip out. Yeah. Yeah. I just, yeah.
It was disappointing.
And the lines, I think, were not helped at all by just not having more, just having more characters. Even adding 2
Correct.
more would have made a huge difference in how these lines were flowing and moving. And I think it would have made a big difference.
And I would have felt less bitter about the 3 Z-list characters that we got if there was 2 other character stops of even like mid-level,
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
you know. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, very disappointing.
So, yeah,
Then
needless to say, our 5K was like, what is happening here? And then we finish. At the finish line, we did have Pluto in Chef Pluto. He was up there
he
waving to us.
was.
Yes, I got a picture with of him, not with him, because I didn't run over there to take a picture. But yes, he was there. So
Didn't even see him.
yeah, so we did get that at the end of the Wine and Dine 5K, which okay, cool, makes sense. He was cute. So that's who we saw there at the end. Which also all of the races now ended in a different location in a different area that I think at the end of it all, I was like, it feels like we're walking a lot longer. Like it felt like it was a lot longer. Jane pointed out that really it was maybe like an extra 2 minutes. Like it wasn't a huge difference. But
No,
I was being dramatic at that point because I'd already been on the course for like 2.5 hours.
it's fair.
So it was so long from the finish line to the family reunion area. I honestly think it might have just felt that way, but I don't think it really was. So I didn't have any massive issues with the way the ending ended. I thought everything was still pretty okay from that perspective. Did you notice anything or feel any difference?
No, not at the finish line. They did have Purple Gatorade, which is a huge hit as far as I'm concerned.
Powerade.
Oh, that's it. Powerade, whatever. You gave me purple sugar drink and it was beautiful. It was delicious. I love it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so that was exciting. And then, so at the start slash finish line where I forgot what they call it. Don't they call it like what do they call that party? I don't know.
Family
Anyway,
reunion
family
area.
reunion area, whatever it is. So there's the DJ who's playing music. Shout out to him for playing Cruel Summer. And
Yes. As we walked up, we were screaming the bridge.
it was great.
It
It
was
was great.
awesome.
He actually played it again because we had been there so long. So anyway, so before I had finished the course, I had texted a friend of mine while I was still in line
mm-hmm.
for the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I live here now. Send my mail. And she was like, that's cool. I'm going to get in line. She's very fast, right? So she was like, oh, I really want to get in line for a photo with Alice and the Mad Hatter at the finish. Perfect. I said, awesome. I want to get that photo too. So I wanted to let her know that one, because first of all, I thought they were swapping. So I thought you got Alice or the Mad Hatter. And it turned out, no, you got them together. But I wanted to let her know, hey, I want to grab that photo too, because usually when we finish, she's taken all the photos and I usually don't stay for photos, but I wanted to let her know so that if she got it, she would get back in line so that by the time I finished, I could hop in line with her. So she was like, yeah, I'm in line for them right now. I was like, okay. So finished waiting at the Queen or whatever, finished our race. And then I got in line for this Alice and Mad Hatter. And so I had texted my friend at 6:45. 6:45. I was still in line for Queen of Hearts, and she was in line already for Alice and the Mad Hatter. When we finished, she said, "Take your time. I'm still in line." I was like, huh. So I thought to myself, oh, she must have already taken her pictures and she jumped back in line for us. No, she never got to the front of the line. So I went over and got in line with her, and we were like very far back.
You guys were. I was sitting there going, what is happening? I opted out of this photo. I was like, I'll just sit here and wait for you guys. It can't take that long.
We did not get our photo until 8:27. 8:27, almost 2 hours from me texting her.
So
What?
the story here is obviously
They hate us.
definitely. But the end of the races, there are characters to take at the end of the races, but be prepared for really long waits, and you're probably going to be able to pick one. You're probably not going to get, I think they had 3 characters that you could take pictures of. You probably aren't going to get all 3 unless you're super crazy legs fast and you make good strategic choices as to which one to get in line for first, to like boom, 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 knock it out. And then you wait for the long one, or maybe you get the one that you think is going to be the longest. And then I don't even know what the best way to do this is, but the lesson learned here was Mad Hatter was very chatty, and he talked to everybody.
But they all were.
Yeah.
Because I was watching Maribel and Bruno, and the same thing. And like, listen, it's wonderful. Like, I love that they interact in the parks. Like, I love that they interact. We went through this at Halloween party. I love that Jack and Sally interacted with the ridiculous line. But when you have a line that is this long, somebody needs to be like, no, we're not doing this. Get in, get out, get in, get out.
Do the short version, do the short spiel where you say like 15 seconds of chit chat, then you take your picture, not a minute and a half to 2 minutes per guest. Like, that's too much time.
So, and then what happened was, like, for us, like, I didn't really care, but I was like, so imagine now that you've waited in this line for 2 hours, okay, as my friend did. So I didn't wait the full 2 hours, but I'll still complain on her behalf. So imagine that you wait in line for 2 hours, as she did, and a bunch of people behind us did. And you watch all of these people in front of you get like a full song and a dance when they get up there. But then when you get up there, now we're on fast forward because we were up against it being the last race buses to go back to the hotels.
Oh, yeah. They had to clear everybody out.
As we were going, they were like, they're in 5 minutes. That's why it was like 8:27. They were calling 5 minutes. So 8:30 is the last race bus to go back to the hotels. So if you miss the race buses, then you either have to walk all the way to the other side of Epcot to take a regular resort bus back, or you can take an Uber. But again, still, you have to walk all the way to the other side of Epcot. So the girls that were behind us were like, it's fine. We're going to get this picture and we're going to run to this resort bus. But like at this point, so now that they know that they're up against time, it became like, hi, hello, snap. Hi, hello, snap. Hi. And it was like, this is what we should have been doing for the last 2 hours.
Right. It was just poor time management with the character really all around, I think. I don't even know why the Red Queen didn't, I can't even say that she was too chatty or anything because she's not a face character. So she hasn't talked to anybody, right? Same thing with the White Rabbit, right? They're not face characters. And so those did go quick, and we got
for the amount of people in line. Yes.
We got one picture. Like, they didn't take multiple pictures. They weren't screwing around. It was one picture and move on, one picture, move on. So those 2 lines, I can't say that they were managed incorrectly. It was just that you only had 2 choices on this course. Well, we only had 2 choices on the course, and we know it's not true. We know there was a total of 5, but it was just kind of limited. And so that happened. But then, afterwards, I definitely think there's got to be a little bit better control from there, because you're right, to your point. Like, again, people who were fast enough or who got in line earlier had a different experience.
They didn't. She was still in line. I mean, technically she was still in line and she is fast. Like, I was like, that's the crazy part.
It is crazy. It is absolutely crazy. So anyway,
And it
this was our
because
5K experience. I know everybody is going to have a different experience than what we had, but overall, this was not our favorite 5K.
no, no. And it could have been. It very well could have been.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was they usually do the finish line characters, they swap them, right? So that's why when she said, oh, it's Alice and the Mad Hatter, I thought, oh, it's Alice and then they're swapping for the Mad Hatter. That way you avoid the breaks. They also didn't do that. It was Alice and the Mad Hatter, which I'm thrilled to have a photo with both of them. But we had to wait while they went on break for 10 minutes with nothing. So, like, it was, this was just very, very poorly managed.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that's hopefully a takeaway that somebody picked up. That I mean, again, we joke that people listen to our podcast. We know you do, and we appreciate you. But we have no idea if you have any connections to runDisney or if they have any clue about any of this. But that's just what our takeaway was that the line management was not. There were some problems.
It
So
was not great. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't great. The medals were gorgeous. The medals were
Hmm.
adorable. My shirt is cute. Everything, everything else was fun. The announcers were good. Like I don't have any massive like complaints or issues with any of those things. It was just the actual on course characters were very different. Now, let's flip to the 10K and the half marathon and talk about holy cow, what a difference those two races were, I think, from the perspective of characters. 10K had some baller characters. They had a great list of people out on the course. And it was clearly, God's favorites were running the 10K because they had some really good ones. And then the half marathon, somebody sent me a list of all of the variety of characters that were out for the half marathon, which I expect there to be more on the half marathon. So I'm not bitter or mad about that. I just felt like the 5K got shafted. But on the half marathon, if you add up every single character that you could have possibly run into on this race course, it's something like 50 characters. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm looking at this list. It's huge. And it's a big variety of them too, which is interesting. But the ones that really stood out to me that I appreciated was that, like, I guess at mile, I don't know, 8.5, something like that, Jack and Sally were meeting together. And then the very next, like, quarter mile later, you got Oogie Boogie.
Yeah.
So usually what happens is they'll rotate like Jack and Sally or Oogie Boogie. So it's the same theme at one stop. So as a runner, you're not going to get everybody that you want. You're going to have to, you'll either get Jack and Sally or you'll get Oogie Boogie, right? That kind of thing. This is one of the times that I was like, good on them, how they like separated those two big characters. I am not a Jack and Sally or Oogie Boogie fangirl, but I know people that are, and those tend to be very, very popular characters, mostly because you don't see them at Disney World in the parks ever. Jack and Sully do come to the Hollywood party, but that's a whole nother story. If you want to hear that drama, go listen to one of the other podcast episodes because we covered
Halloween
those.
party. Yeah.
The Halloween party. Jack and Sally are a huge line, like massive, crazy line. So they're very popular characters. So I was impressed that they recognized that and they separated them out. I was also impressed that they put Figment on the course, the live character Figment. For the other races, you could take a picture with the statue Figment after the
Yes.
race, which is cute too. But they put actual Figment on the half marathon course, which is good. The only thing they didn't do is they didn't make it like a character stop in the sense of there was no photo pass photographer. So if you wanted Figment, it was a drive-by selfie or, get a friend to take your picture with Figment or whatever. But I don't even think there was a line. I think it was just people were pulling over, stopping,
That's weird.
yeah, grabbing their pictures. The only thing I can say in Disney's defense is if they had put a photo pass photographer, think how long that line would have been, Jane. It would have been so insane.
It's not like we haven't seen a line like that before.
What for the for the queen, for the red queen on the 5K.
I mean, for literally all of the Alice characters.
It would have been a very long line, but at least they put Figment out there because I didn't know that they would. I thought they would have put Figment
I thought he
at
would have
the
been
end
at the
of the
finish.
race. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I would have thought. I
yeah.
would have thought he would have been at the end of the race. And then there was Star-Lord and Gamora.
Yes, they put Star-Lord and Gamora out, which makes sense. And if they had done that on the 5K, I absolutely would have stopped.
Yeah, of course.
I
Of
mean,
course we would have.
that would have been a no-brainer. But they didn't. Why
You
not?
know,
Your photo
because
photographers were there. Why couldn't we have stopped? We could have
I
stopped.
got Stitch Aliens or something is what I got. I
Whatever
don't know.
weirdness
Whatever
that
it was.
was. Yeah. So I will say, like for the half marathon and the 10K, I felt like they did a really good job with those characters. I did enjoy that, and we asked in the Facebook group if anybody wants like more detailed perspectives, especially from different people that ran these races from different corrals and different levels. This is there's a great thread that is going on over there right now. You can come and add your thoughts as well if you would like to. You can also just see what other people felt and what they had to say. Theresa kind of chimed in on what she was hearing about the athletes with disabilities in there as well. So that's a whole, again, something else. I'm going to wait and have that discussion with her because she has more firsthand knowledge and connection with people who had the experiences there than I do. But I'm going to have some talks with her on that. People did say the way that the corrals were set up for the half marathon, the people that were in the last corral kind of got shafted because they didn't even open up that corral for them until 5 a.m., which they did tell us about in advance. And they did say that that was going to be the case. However, the way they opened it up, everybody just said it was actually kind of scary and people were rushing and people were like kind of a stampede situation because they put you in like a holding pen corral saying this
Right.
isn't the corral, but when this corral opens then you'll get to move into the corral. And just the feedback was that was very awful and very messy. This was a new start location for the half marathon, so maybe that's something they're going to be able to adjust and correct in the future. I don't know how. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what they will end up doing, but every single e-corral person that I have seen, it didn't matter. They, even the ones that thought they were going to be at the front of e-corral, ended up getting steamrollered and pushed to the very back of e-corral. And they were saying that they actually started, one wave before the balloon ladies when they were trying to be in the very first wave in order to give a little bit, give himself another minute or two between them and the balloon ladies. And that's not what happened just because of the way that the setup was. So yeah, it sounds like it wasn't good. The 10K, I went out and cheered the 10K. We had signs. We were at the boardwalk area right in front of that abracadabra. How do you say that? Is it abracadabra bar or is it
No, it's
abracadabrar?
Abracadabrar.
That's what it is. Okay. So we were there and I was looking online and I saw all these people with great characters. I actually just think the 10K probably wins the character options. Like you had Agent P, Phineas and Ferb out there. You had Little John and Robin Hood. They had Jiminy Cricket. They had Gaston, and Gaston's like never out ever. I mean, last time I think I saw Gaston was like Princess 2014, maybe. I don't even know. So that was kind of fun. I think the 10K probably got the best characters, but I don't know. There's definitely some concerns about the 10K course that people gave their feedback. Very short period of time, they actually said, through Hollywood studios compared to previous years. I don't know. So it's like kind of a mixed bag of a weekend, I think, this year. Mostly good.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think the half had a great list of characters on it, and
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely think that you should, you focus on the big race for the weekend, and that is the big race for the
Mm-hmm.
weekend. So, I get that. I'm glad that they got their money's worth. I just think that they should also remember that there's people that are running other races that also deserve an experience.
Well, yeah, and especially like with the 5K, all I can think of is one of the people in our Facebook group. I know she was running with her son for the
Hmm.
first his first race. She's a seasoned runDisney person. She runs all the races, but she had brought her son for the first time, and she was very disappointed in the 5K because it just wasn't the experience that she was hoping to give him. And they're fast
Right.
runners, so in theory, like they could have gotten a lot of cool characters, and they didn't just because these lines were
Right.
banana pants.
Banana pants.
Just banana pants. Okay, so Wine and Dine, done and done. And the good news was the weather was beautiful. No rain in the forecast, which does not always happen with a Wine and Dine race weekend. Sometimes it gets kind of messy, but it was a good, solid weekend there. I will say that some of the parks were very packed. The first day that I got there was November 1st, and it was lovely. But over the course of the weekend, as the runners poured in, it got busier and busier. And I think this was also the start of Jersey Week is coming up. So people that were coming
Hmm.
in on the weekends. When I left on Saturday, you couldn't park in the Epcot parking lot. It was completely full. Like even the grass parking was taken. They were
I think
turning
that's
people
also
away.
I think that's also because the nice weather. The locals
Hmm.
always come out in the nice
Oh, for
weather.
sure, for sure,
So,
for
and
sure.
we're coming to the end of Food and Wine.
Yeah.
I haven't even been to Food and Wine this year. Killing it.
You're just burning up that annual pass, aren't you?
You know how much I love Epcot. I'm so sad I'm missing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, this race weekend was, I don't know, it was weird. This was the first one under new management, so maybe there'll be some adjustments that ultimately get made over time, some learning experiences. All I can say is if you have feedback that you want to give your feedback to, definitely reach out to runDisney. I would suggest emails over phone calls because you'll never get a phone call back, and who knows who's listening to it. But I think if you send emails, they're usually pretty good at least responding. So if you had any particular concerns, and for what it's worth, I think my griping over characters probably isn't something that I'd email over, but I'm talking about if you're an athlete. Jane, however, she might send a strongly worded email. But if you are an athletes with disabilities, or you had some safety concerns because you were in e-corral and you almost got run over, whatever, those are things that I think that runDisney does need to hear and does need to know about, because they can't be in all places at all times. You're welcome to complain on Facebook, but just know we don't
There's
make
not a
the
lot that gets
rules.
done with that. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't make the
Yeah. We
rules.
don't we joke about having a direct line to them, but we really don't.
We absolutely do not. No, not at all. So anyway, Facebook group, if you do want to have some more discussion about this, if you have felt some sort of way about anything, we are always happy to listen to you vent. And even if it was good, if it was amazing, if you have cute pictures that you want to share, feel free to come join us on No Guilt Disney on Facebook, and happy to chat. We've got 2 more races coming up in 2 more months.
Oh, yeah. We do.
Oh, yeah, we do. We got 2, Jane. We got 2.
I'm thrilled.
Marathon weekend, and then following right on its heels is going to be the return of the Disneyland half marathon weekend out in Disneyland. And we're going to both of those. So obviously, we will get you guys an update on that. Theresa is running her first half marathon at marathon weekend. So we're also kind of hoping that we can get the 3 of us together at some point, maybe on Saturday after the half marathon. We discussed this. Do you not remember that?
Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.
No,
We'll
I
see.
don't remember anything.
Okay. Hey, that's fair. Me neither. Me neither. Okay. Anything else you want to add or throw in to the wine and dine discussion?
No, just that the season is here, and before we know it, we're going to be having this conversation about marathon weekend and all
Yep.
the details that come out about that, which should be in about a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, super exciting.
All right. Be sure to come join the Facebook group. Follow, subscribe, do the things that you want to do. We're on YouTube-ish. We're on a monthly, weekish podcast. We just like to talk about different Disney things over here, but we love Run Disney. And so if that
We
is
do.
something that you want to have some more discussions about, or you want to just talk about, Run Disney fangirling or fanguying, we're your girls. So feel free to reach out and let us know. For the rest of the year, I can tell you, Theresa and I are getting together. We're doing the Jolly Hollywood experience, and I'm also going to Vicky's Very Merry Christmas Party. And then I'm following that trip up with a trip to Disneyland for Christmas. So we will have a holiday discussion of some point, even if it's just me coming on here and telling you about the differences between the two parks. But we're going to have some discussion about the holidays at Disney coming up, because we know that's always a big time of year and people always have questions and wonder about it. So we're gonna knock that off. That's upcoming, and then of course Marathon Weekend we will absolutely talk about, and probably throw in another episode or two before the end of the year.
Yeah,
I think.
definitely.
I hope.
We will. And then we usually take a break, but I would think we'll come back earlier from our break because of Marathon Weekend. So
Marathon Weekend's early this year, so yeah.
it is early this year.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Patty told you where to find us, so come find us or don't, and join us here each weekish, because as Patty likes to say,
Uh, it's no fun fangirling 5Ks without characters at Ren Disney alone.
sure,
Sure.
fangirl, yeah, fangirling. All right,
Bye, y'all.
bye, y'all.